jumping into the Swiss round 3 game. Hope you guys are excited. Of course, tweet out to us with that hashtag #PlayPokemon. Let us know who you're rooting for. And we've got the teams in front of us. So just to have a little look on Ashton's side, he has got the Smeargle, Xerneas, Incineroar, that lovely Lunala, Toxicroak, and Crobat. Whereas on Agati's side, he has got the Solgaleo, the Xerneas, Landorus, Tapu Koko, Incineroar, and that Ludicolo. Landorus is back, Marcus.
Landorus making an appearance. I think Gabriel was one of the players who really liked using that Pokemon, of course, for its sustainability, for the Intimidate ability, of course, and he's been one of the few players who's still trying to make it work. I think before he has used it alongside Xerneas, but I think the Solgaleo is not something I've seen him use before.
No, very true. And that Landorus as well, talking to Paul previously, he wanted a ground resist on there, and having that flying type Pokemon on there on Gabriel's side is going to really be able to help him out here. But, you know, Ashton has brought that Lunala. It can be quite a tricksy Pokemon. And the interesting thing to see here, there's no weather. This is something coming into the tournament we all thought we'd see a lot of Groudon and Kyogre, but I don't believe we've really seen any of it so far this tournament.
Yeah, not that many Groudons so far, but of course the Xerneas making an appearance here, and Solgaleo is actually one of the more interesting choices alongside this Pokemon. I think in the previous round we've also seen a Solgaleo using some unorthodox moves like Stone Edge even.
Yeah, that's perfect for those ground resist flying types, particularly that Moltres, but it dodged out the way.
Exactly, but yeah, the Landorus T, even though it cannot intimidate the Solgaleo, can still make a pretty fair matchup and use probably like either Earth Power or Earthquake to do a lot of damage back.
Exactly, and they're jumping into this battle. It is going to be the Smeargle Xerneas lead coming out from Ashton, whereas Gabriel's going to bring in that Solgaleo and Tapu Koko. So if that's Smeargle, we all know it's a Pokemon that is of many moves. If it's going for something like a Sport, it can't do that with electric terrain out. But the most crucial thing I think Smeargle's going to be doing here is helping out its buddy Xerneas. You want to get that Geomancy up, whether you go for something like a Fake Out, Follow Me, even a Wide Guard. As Gabriel, you have no idea what's coming out.
Exactly, but on the other side, in Gabriel's shoes, he has the Tapu Koko as well as the Solgaleo. Solgaleo really good against Xerneas. Tapu Koko with the Electric Surge ability, as you were saying, preventing any sleep shenanigans from going on. But what Tapu Koko can also do is go for a Sky Drop to remove any sort of redirection with Follow Me from that Smeargle, and say if we were to look at a Follow Me and Geomancy, then Skydrop and Sunsteel Strike would just be the end of Ashton's game. So I think he should probably try and maybe do something else here. But yeah, as you're saying, of course, the Smeargle is in position with the Xerneas, and he actually is just going for the Follow Me. So I'm curious to see whether we might see that Skydrop.
No Skydrop, it's going to be the Volt Switch in the electric terrain here. Going to do a huge amount of damage to the Smeargle and take it down to the Focus Sash. One of the most popular items on Smeargle. It just allows it to hang on and maybe help out its partner Pokemon another day. But Solgaleo as well, one of those Pokemon that could potentially go for something like a Trick Room. So if you're Gabriel, you might have just wanted to get your super fast Tapu Koko out, get Trick Room up, and of course bring in Incineroar. A perfect choice here. You're going to have Fake Out on the next turn as well, and then you can heavily threaten in maybe a slower environment.
Exactly, and that's Xerneas, if it decided to go for that Geomancy, would really have to fear an attack coming into it next turn, because for this turn, either the Solgaleo would be knocking out the Smeargle due to the Follow Me or setting up Trick Room, but then for the next turn, the Xerneas definitely isn't safe in the face of the Solgaleo.
Exactly. Even if Trick Room does go up, though, you would sort of think you've got your Smeargle there, it can maybe help out Xerneas, but because that Incineroar's in there with the Fake Out, you're going to have to go on the defensive in the next turn. Xerneas getting all its boosters up, as Solgaleo does just go for a Sunsteel Strike, so this will take out the Smeargle thanks to that Follow Me, and Xerneas is nicely boosted up. The other interesting thing about this is now going to give Ashton the opportunity to bring in another Pokemon of his own that might be able to help out that Xerneas going forward. Maybe the Incineroar of his own.
Yeah, it could even be the Lunala to try and go for that Psych Up combination that we talked about earlier, but at the same time, with Incineroar on the field, of course, the knockoff is something that could potentially threaten the Lunala, and the Solgaleo at the same time can threaten the Xerneas. However, once Lunala was boosted, the Moongeist Beam being super effective against Solgaleo, and Xerneas also really threatening to launch a boosted Moonblast against that Incineroar. Gabriel has to be very, very careful in choosing his moves here, because one wrong move could end up in his opponent getting that, for example, something like a protecting the Xerneas and using Psych Up, because that works through Protect.
Definitely.
So Gabriel really has to watch out on what he does here. And Ashton on the other side must be happy with this, even though he has lost his Smeargle, got the Lunala into position now, has the Geomancy already up, and is ready to, overwhelm his opponent with those boosts potentially.
As well, that Incineroar cannot use Fake Out on the Ghost-type Lunala, so that Psych Up play could be coming right out here. Xerneas, of course, boosted up by its speed, going for a Moonblast, going into that Incineroar slot that just switched in, going to do a good amount of damage there. lowering the special attack, but that doesn't matter too much against that Incineroar. We all know it's a physical attacker. But no Psych Up coming out. I really want to see this move coming out. I'm anticipating it. Instead, it's going to be the Moongeist Beam, still dealing a huge amount of damage onto the Tapu Koko, as Incineroar does go for a Snarl. So it's got the Intimidate ability naturally. It can lower the physical attack of opposing Pokemon, but it has Snarl to target down those special attackers as well. And most notably, you've broken Lunala's ability there.
Exactly, the Shadow Shield being broken now, of course, if Lunala is at full HP, any move that hits it will only do half of the damage. But now, even though Lunala's special attack got reduced, the Xerneas still is a little bit boosted, so what Lunala could do now is just go for the Psych Up and that way get rid of the drop in the special attack and copy Xerneas' boosts, while Xerneas could go for a Dazzling Gleam, and I think that should be enough to knock out both the Tapu Koko and the Incineroar. So there's not really too much that Gabriel can do to contest this play, and I think that Ashton has really managed to put himself in a very strong position, not going for the Psych Up right away, but now being in a position where there's nothing that could really hit the Lunala on the turn. It goes for the Psych Up.
Exactly, the offensive pressure coming out from Ashton at the moment is making it difficult for Gabriel to deal with. Solgaleo does switch in, and that's going to be falling victim to something like a Moongeist Beam potentially, as Moonblast will pick up the KO on that Tapu Koko. So Tapu Koko going to retreat to his trainer, and Psych Up does come out. I'm really excited to see this come off here. That Lunala is now going to have boosted speed, special defense, and special attack at +1 thanks to the Snarl earlier.
Exactly, so it's roundabout as strong as a Choice Specs Lunala would be, and that should easily be enough to get the knockout on that Solgaleo. So yeah, Gabriel really has to come up with a way to contest this, but as we were saying, once the Xerneas and the Lunala are next to each other with all those boosts, there's hardly anything you can do to stop that. And even though Solgaleo would be on the field against the Xerneas, as we were saying, Lunala really pairs up with that so well, can get the knockout there, and Gabriel now switching in his own Xerneas, however without the boost, doesn't really stand a chance against Ashton's boosted Pokemon, I think.
Exactly, that Xerneas has got the boost up, and Gabriel doesn't really have anything at the moment that's going to be able to negate that. Previously we've seen things like Raw, you can even have like Red Card as an item on your Pokemon, but it looks like Gabriel's really on the back foot here and is going to be unable to stop the Xerneas. That's still at full HP as well, going through his team in this game.
Yes, and I'm thinking maybe Gabriel is already thinking about what he could do differently for a second game. He's still trying to play it out, of course. Maybe there's still a chance with a critical hit or something. Protects the Solgaleo, of course afraid of a potential Moongeist Beam, which also hits into that protect.
Xerneas on Ashton's side going for the Moonblast though, going to target down the opposing Xerneas. Thanks to the boost, it's going to do a good amount of damage and does actually pick up the KO there. Unfortunately, without the boost on Gabriel Xerneas, it didn't have the special defense needed to take that. And Ashton is down. Ashton is doing so well here. He's going to be whittling down Gabriel's Pokemon here. That Solgaleo has just gone for the protect. It can't necessarily go for it again. Fake out, can't hit that Lunala. That Moongeist Beam is just going to be able to clean through here. Yeah,
such a strong showing here by Ashton. Really identifying that probably based off of Gabriel's team, that this Tapu Koko was unlikely to carry a Skydrop, or maybe he just wanted to play a little bit of a gamble here, because it's the first game, you're still trying to get some information here, but it worked out perfectly for him. Getting rid of his own Smeargle really helped him out in the long run, because then that way he could manage to get in the Lunala right next to the Xerneas, copy the boosts, and just run away with this game. And Gabriel never really stood too much of a chance after the first couple of turns. Once the Xerneas was set up, I doubt there was anything he could really have done.
He needs to think of a way to stop potentially that boost or deal with that sort of classic lead of Smeargle Xerneas. It's something that we've seen whenever Xerneas has been in a format, really. Smeargle is one of the perfect partner Pokemon, and you often do have to not underestimate that, even though maybe in game one you don't have the knowledge, and all we've seen so far is that it does carry Follow Me. You need to still be able to have some kind of answer to deal with it and stop Smeargle, allowing Xerneas to get set up, obviously being KO'd in the process. It's one of the only times you really kind of want your Pokemon to be KO'd, one of those nice situational strategies, and you just need to be able to stop that from coming up. So I'm not too sure if Gabriel's got the sort of the moveset to be able to do this. Do you think there's anything in his team that he could now bring out that'd be a nice surprise?
The thing is that the combination of Fairy type and Ghost type attacks is really, really hard to stop. He only has one resistance to Fairy type attacks in that Solgaleo and only one resistance against Ghost type attacks, which is that Incineroar. So those two, in my opinion, should play a key part in his attempt to deflect this strategy by Ashton. I think if the Solgaleo of Gabriel carries Trick Room, then that would be one of the main strategies he should try to go for here in the second battle. Just based off the fact that Geomancy will boost the speed of Xerneas, and also the Lunala was trained to be really, really quickly So yeah, if he can somehow get the speed advantage in his favor, the Solgaleo's Sunsteel Strike should still be able to do a ton of damage to the Xerneas, if not just knock it out in one hit. And it looks like though he tries to do things a little bit differently instead.
Yeah, so does Ashton. He's dropped the Smeargle and he's just going straight out with that special attack power. It's Lunala and Xerneas as his lead, whereas Gabriel has gone for Xerneas of his own, but that Tapu Koko's still around, and that's going to be super speedy while those Xerneas aren't boosted up. Maybe wants to try and get the chip on that Lunala to break its Shadow Shield.
So it looks like Ashton was probably expecting some sort of a Solgaleo lead and therefore decided to go with the Lunala straight away to threaten that away. However, Gabriel instead, yeah, as you were saying, led off with Tapu Koko and Xerneas, so now we might be in a situation where both the Xerneas could go for that Geomancy without really worrying too much about taking all too much damage. I think the Tapu Koko on Gabriel's side is probably could be able to support it a little bit better with, say, Electro Web or Nature's Madness. However, based on the damage it did to this Smeargle in the first game, yeah, it looks like this Tapu Koko is very, very offensive. Probably a Choice Specs variant, doing so much damage to the Xerneas right away, and we've also seen that Lunala on Ashton's side was faster than his Xerneas, so depending on how these Xerneas are trained, I'm not sure if he can get off the Psych Up this first turn unless he made the play of going for a Psych Up on his opponent's Xerneas, so not as easy for Ashton to play this first turn.
Very true. Going for the Moongeist Beam though, going to jump up into the sky here. Potentially was targeting into that Tapu Koko slot. We often see maybe something like a Side Shock paired up with it for something like Xerneas, but no, it doesn't even need the Side Shock. That Moongeist Beam does a huge amount of damage to Xerneas. So both Xerneas is here. Ashton is down below 50% on his one, and so is Gabriel. So these Xerneas, although they're very likely going to be getting their boosts in this turn, they do have to worry about their low health. Potentially now that Incineral's in there using Fake Out. Yes, Lunala can't be flinched due to this move, but that Xerneas can be. So you might want to be playing a little bit defensively if you're here as Ashton, and making sure that you do protect your Xerneas. You don't want it to be KO'd. But no Geomancy coming out from Ashton's side. He's staying straight on the offensive, going into the opposing Xerneas. It did get its Geomancy off first, so it did have that special defense boost. Yep. But if it hadn't, if that was a speed tie, that would have easily picked up the KO. Yeah,
you could see Ashton shake his head there, seeing how fast his opponent Xerneas was here. And he was really hoping that he could get the clean KO on the Xerneas and not worry about any Geomancy action whatsoever. So now Incineroar, as you were saying, has the potential to go for a Fake Out. However, at the same time, he would also might want to stop that Lunala in its tracks. So a potential play could also be to protect his own Xerneas and go for a knockoff or a Snarl into that Lunala.
Yeah, Lunala jumping out of there though doesn't want to take any damage from this Xerneas. Potentially Ashton wants to try and find a way to work around that Xerneas before he lets Lunala come into its tracks. Yep. Incineroar switching in, so he's going to have to Fake Out on the opposing turn, and that Xerneas does just protect. So Ashton, switching from that really offensive strategy he's been going for so far, going defensive as Moonblast does come out from the opposing Xerneas. Going into the Incineroar switch, and it does manage to survive on 11 hit points. So unless the opposing Incineroar has targeted into it, it's got the berry here as well. So it will be able to hang around and go for the Fake Out in the next turn and help out its buddy Xerneas in the next turn. Incineroar though going for that Snarl we saw previously, but thanks to the Protect, that Xerneas is still going to be at full power.
Yeah, nicely done by both players really. Ashton was probably trying to fish out a Protect from his opponent's Xerneas, protect his own Xerneas, bring in the Incineroar so that for the next turn he would have Fake Out pressure. However, Gabriel reading into that very, very nicely and going for a Moonblast into that Lunala instead of trying to get the knockout on the Xerneas. So now he will be able to protect his own Xerneas and have it stick around for another turn. So now, yeah, it's back on Ashton to decide on whether he wants to try and set up the Geomancy. But actually, we've seen the Fake Out going into the Incineroar, so he was really predicting Gabriel's Xerneas to go for that Protect, but once again, Gabriel with the read and now getting the KO on his opponent's Xerneas.
Exactly, that Fake Out going into Incineroar there spelled disaster for his partner Xerneas. Obviously, it was unboosted. It was not going to be able to take that Moonblast, particularly at the low health it was at. And, we were saying at the end of Game 1, what Gabriel really needs to do is try and get rid of that Xerneas. He's got rid of that Pokemon. It's been KO'd, returned to Ashton, but now that Lunala is back on the field. And that's now the second big threat he's got to deal with.
Yeah, because Lunala, due to the Shadow Shield ability, will be able to take any hit from the Xerneas and then could try and go for that Psych Up to steal all the boosts. We have already seen in the first game that Lunala on Ashton's side is faster than the Xerneas of Gabriel, so that could be one option for him.
It certainly could be. You could steal the boost from the opposing Xerneas as opposed to your buddy one. Smeagol switches in here thanks to the focus dash, and once again, critical hit, you know, just for fun. Will be able to survive her and maybe help out that Lunala on the next turn. But Lunala here able to go for that Psychop, like you mentioned there, Marcus, and going to get all of those juicy boosts up here.
Yeah, but if this is a Snarl, this could be really strong for Gabrielle.
Yeah, this is going to be dealing with some super effective damage. It's going to chip away at that Lunala and break that elusive ability, lowering its special attack to now just +1. But most noticeably, like we're saying, it's got the speed there. So it'll be able to, you know, pick up a KO against that opposing Xerneas if it doesn't protect, but then you have to worry about Incineroar. It could go for the knockoff, and now Lunala's had its ability broken. That's going to really, really hurt.
Yeah, so I think what this comes down to is Ashton really trying to make the comeback here with his boosted Lunala. However, since Ashton cannot really switch anymore, he's kind of pinned there with his own Incineroar against his opponent's Incineroar, and neither Incineroar nor Lunala can really do a lot of damage to Gabrielle's Incineroar. So I would assume that this battle plays out in Gabrielle just going for some more Snarls and this Lunala really lowering its damage output so that then in the end with whatever Pokemon he has in the back he can try to get the KOs there.
Exactly, he doesn't really have anything to tackle down against this opposing Incineroar on Gabrielle's side. Going for the Moon Guy speed though, going to target into the opposing Incineroar. Even with the boost, you can see how little that does, and that tends to be the only move really that Lunala can use against Incineroar here. Moonblast coming out from the opposing Xerneas, going into the Incineroar on Ashton's side, and will easily pick up the KO here. So now it's Lunala against the world, and I feel like Gabrielle's really managed to pull this round.
Yeah, once again, no Protect from that Xerneas, and Ashton once again trying to read out that Protect. Wanted to go for the fake out on the Incineroar, predicting a Protect on the Xerneas, and also the Moon Guy Beam to get a little bit more damage on that Incineroar. But even with that, Incineroar is just looking so bulky here, and yeah, could have just like stayed on the field and snarled for days here.
Yeah, going for the Protect there on the Lunala, maybe just wanting to scout out what Gabrielle is going to be doing here, or buying a little bit of extra time to think through your Game 3 strategy. Sometimes all those seconds can be all you need to really sort of put your brain cells together and come up with a great sort of strategy going into Game 3, because that's what it's going to come down to here. Whoever wins the next game is going to be taking this set.
Yeah, so Gabrielle really, after proving after the first battle where it seemed like Ashton was so in control, really destroying him in the way. Gabrielle now for the second battle is like, it's not that easy. I know how to play Pokemon as well. And leading off with the Tapu Koko and the Xerneas, not showing off the Solgaleo at all in the second battle so far. So
yeah, we still haven't seen his fourth Pokemon.
Good adaptation from Gabrielle, definitely. And this Xerneas just doesn't want to protect.
It certainly doesn't. You can see Ashton going down to the last second there as well, and really think he's trying to utilize every second to just think through his Game 3 strategy. And I do think it came down to the fact that Xerneas didn't get its boost up and then it got KO'd. We were sort of saying that it's the key. You need your Xerneas to be able to win this game. And unfortunately for Ashton, he lost it without even having any boost to get off any offensive pressure. So it left his remaining 3 Pokemon sort of on the back foot and unable to deal out the damage that was needed to pick up KOs.
Yeah, really nicely done. That very first turn with the Tapu Koko went for the Choice Specs boosted, presumably Volt Switch on the Xerneas, just dealing so much damage. But then also in the later stages of the game, Gabrielle knew where Ashton's outs were, where Ashton could try and be a little bit cheeky to go for a prediction, and yeah, Gabrielle really playing very nicely into that, and also doesn't want to reveal whatever his last Pokemon is so far. And I would assume that this Tapu Koko and the Incineroar will try to just take the game home for Gabrielle.
Exactly. If I was Ashton now, like, sort of looking towards Game 3, I would quite like to see more of that very classic play that you see with Xerneas, pair it up with the Incineroar or the Smeagol, and just go for that sort of buddy system where you're able to go for Fake Out or Follow Me and help out Xerneas to get the boost up. We haven't really seen anything from Gabrielle other than the Solgaleo that can really threaten that Xerneas sort of once it's got its boosts up. And there doesn't seem to be any sort of raw or red card or anything. So if I was Ashton, I want to see maybe that classic play. Although it is something that's maybe easy to counter if you've thought through and built that into your team. It worked out for him so well in Game 1, and I think if he maybe goes back to basics a little bit more, he'll get that Xerneas boosted up and be able to take the game. But Lunala here just going for more Moon Guys beams.
Yeah, I agree. Really trying to get the Xerneas in position should be Ashton's main objective, as we are now actually seeing whatever Gabrielle has in the back, whatever is his fourth Pokemon. And I think it should be that Solgaleo, because as we were saying, it's the only Pokemon that can really threaten the Xerneas on Gabrielle's side, except for his own Xerneas, if he manages to set it up. But yeah, it's always a little, playing with fire a little bit if you try to only rely on your own Xerneas against the opponent Xerneas, because okay, if you get the boost up before them, then great, you probably win. But if you both get boosted and then they also happen to have a Lunala with Psych Up, then all of a sudden they just outnumber you.
Exactly, it's an even playing field then as well, particularly once you've got both the boosts up. But having Lunala there, then you make it uneven again in your advantage. Solgaleo just going to retreat back to Gabrielle though. He does reveal obviously the fourth Pokemon there, and that's a good reason for Ashton as well to have not forfeited this game, to just keep playing it through, going for the protector with Lunala, buying a little bit more time, but he's able to see a little bit more of maybe how Gabrielle is thinking as a player, what his team composition is going into this, and whether he makes changes or not.
Yeah, I think Ashton was just really trying to bait up something like a Trick Room from its Solgaleo, just to get a little bit more information going into this final battle here, but yeah, Gabriel is not falling for that, so yeah, the past couple of turns we've just looked at this Lunala, trying to do what it can. In the end, I think the Incineroar of Gabriel will reign supreme.
Yeah, that Lunala must be a little bit exhausted at the end of this. It just keeps jumping up, jumping down, going for more Moongeist beams, but it is finally KO'd by that Incineroar. So we're 1-1 here. It's Swiss round 3. It's very exciting always when you have a best of 3 situation. You can always feel the tension changing in the venue as well. There's a lot more at stake here. You don't have any of those kind of risks of I might lose this game, but then I still have 2 more that I can win. It's all coming down to this, and they want to keep those perfect records, don't they, Marcus?
Of course. And talking about perfect records, Ashton was actually unbeaten before this very game, so hasn't lost a single battle before, winning the first 5 consecutively. But now Gabriel, as we were saying earlier, doesn't want to let Ashton get away that easily. I mean, Smirgle and Xerneas, that is something that has to be on all the players' minds while building teams, and yeah, maybe Gabriel, as you were saying, is not or hasn't been respecting it as much, but he has shown now in that second battle that he can come up with a way to really play around, play around this potential slight team advantage that I would give to Ashton here in this instance.
It's that Tapu Koko as well. The absolute damage that it dealt out to that Xerneas, doing over 50%. That really put Ashton on the back foot as well straight away. And you know, whether it's choice specs with the electric terrain, it's just something you have to be really cautious about. But game 3 is here on the way. Ashton has gone back to basics here. He's got the Smirgle and Xerneas lead, whereas Gabriel has gone for the Incineroar Xerneas. So both of these players leading with their Xerneases, their big special attackers, with a helping partner beside them.
Yeah, and both of them kind of realizing that, the one key to victory here in this battle is the Xerneas. Because if you set it up like we saw in the first game, Ashton set up Xerneas, had the Lunala next to it, he just wins. Second game, Gabriel gets to set up. Ashton couldn't really keep track, couldn't really follow up with his own Xerneas, was outsped and then KO'd, and so yeah, Gabriel won. So now, hey, what will happen here? This might be the instance where both of them actually get to go for the Geomancy turn 1, but no, we're seeing substitute. So maybe, does this Xerneas not run Protect? I mean, we haven't seen Designate either, but I'm not quite sure whether that Xerneas actually went for Protect.
No, it looks like its defensive move is that substitute. And that was something we saw in the previous game with Paul Reese's Xerneas. So it's interesting to see it already making a little trend for itself here in Brazil. But as well, the fake out going into that Incineroar is going to stop it going for a fake out of its own. And now that you've got the Geomancy boost up on there, you don't necessarily have to worry about any knockoffs or anything either. But most notably, that Smirgle is on the field untouched. Focus Sash still intact. It could get up to a lot of mischief.
Yeah, and that Smirgle's Moody just gave it a speed boost. So now what that means is that Ashton could go for an attack and have Smirgle, for example, spore the opposing Xerneas after the substitute was broken. So yeah, Ashton really has a way to, well, has an option here, potentially. However, if his Smirgle was actually faster than his own Xerneas, then that would work. But no, the Moonblast coming out from the Xerneas, hitting straight into that substitute, that will, of course, fade.
With a critical hit as well. Don't think it necessarily really needed it, but just for a little bit of style points on Ashton's side. And Smirgle goes for Lovely Kiss. Gonna go into that Incineroar, sending it to sleep. Obviously, the Xerneas on Gabriel's side could fall victim to this in the next turn or so, as Xerneas goes for a Moonblast. So it's had its substitute broken and goes into that Smirgle.
No Geomancy. Instead, we're just seeing that Moonblast. And yeah, Lovely Kiss is an interesting adaptation. Of course, the accuracy is way lower than of Spore. But Lovely Kiss has the benefit of passing around safety goggles and grass types that are unaffected by Spore. And we get even more speed boost here from the Smirgle. So now definitely also outspeeding that boosted Xerneas. Yeah, Ashton once again looking in a very strong position. The Incineroar of his opponent fell asleep, so no more Snarls, reducing the special attack, for example. And yeah, Gabriel decided not to go for the Geomancy setup, and now his Xerneas is looking kind of weak compared to Ashton's.
Yeah, this might be the time for Gabrielle to switch in Tapu Koko if it's hiding in the back, just to stop any more of this Lovely Kiss action going on. And that Incineroar as well, it's kind of having a little sleep. You might want to just put it in the back. But first of all, it is going to be the Incineroar joining on Ashton's side. So Smeargle, having done a little bit of work here, is in the back. Incineroar is going to bring out and intimidate the opposing Incineroar here. But obviously, it's going to be taking a nap on this turn. So be interesting to see if we're actually going to finally see the Geomancy.
Yeah, well done actually by Ashton here, keeping the pressure up, switching into the Incineroar. So I would assume that this is a Moonblast going into his opponent's Xerneas. Even if that Xerneas went for a Protect, then the next turn he could just go for a Fake Out and knock it out with another Moonblast.
No Protect though, I really don't think it is carrying that. And going into the opposing Xerneas, doesn't have special defense boost, and it is enough to pick up the KO here. But you just mentioned as well with Ashton's play there, I love that he switched out the Smeargle. The Tapu Koko switching in maybe was that little bit obvious, and he now has the Incineroar in just for that Fake Out pressure going into the next turn, so that you can still help out your Xerneas and stop that Tapu Koko from maybe going for some big damage. We've seen how much it can deal out.
Yeah, and Solgaleo will hit the field now for Gabrielle, but I think it might just be a little too late with Incineroar being on the field. Yeah, Ashton could just go for a Fake Out into the Solgaleo, Moonblast into the Tapu Koko, and yeah, would put himself into such a strong position. I would also assume that Lunala should be Ashton's fourth Pokemon.
Yeah, that can deal with the Solgaleo.
Exactly, one more way to deal with the Solgaleo.
Yeah, with the Fake Out coming out from that Incineroar, going into that Solgaleo that joined the field, definitely the best target here to keep your Xerneas nice and safe. With the special defense boost as well, you're not fearing that Tapu Koko. The Tapu Koko is going to fear that Xerneas taking a powerful Moonblast and will be KO'd and returning back to Gabrielle, who will be down to his last two remaining Pokemon of Solgaleo and Incineroar.
Yes, we might get to see whether Gabrielle's Solgaleo actually carries Trick Room or not, because it could do something like a Fake Out and Trick Room play here. But yeah, even with that, since Incineroar would need to wake up before that could even be a reality, and even then, Ashton still has one more Pokemon in the back, as we were saying, probably the Lunala. And yeah, it looks like Ashton has found a way to just, as you were saying in team preview even, setting up the Xerneas and then just blowing through his opponent's team. Yeah,
we saw the handshake there. Gabrielle has forfeited this game, which means Ashton will be advancing into Swiss Round 4 with an undefeated record here. Phenomenal play from him, and I think, we were right in saying if you get your Xerneas boosted up, you win the game.
Yeah, that is what happened. Gabrielle got here instead trying to go for the Substitute and the Moonblast, but yeah, it didn't really work. It looks like all you gotta do with the Xerneas is go for the Geomancy, and yeah, Ashton